The sky above the sprawling metropolis of Terra Nova shimmered with an unnatural iridescence, a kaleidoscope of colors created by the energy shields that encased the city. Towering spires of sleek, metallic architecture jutted toward the heavens, their surfaces alive with pulsing lights that mirrored the rhythm of a society teetering on the brink of evolution. Beneath this spectacle, the streets buzzed with a cacophony of voices, a blend of humans and the alien factions that had come to coexist in this new age of cooperation and distrust. At the heart of this urban tapestry, a figure clad in a shimmering exosuit moved through the crowd, their identity obscured by a helmet that reflected the neon glow of the city. Kianth, an emissary from the distant world of Nithara, navigated the throng with purpose, a holographic display flickering to life before their eyes. Data streamed in real time, detailing the movements of the Black Ship, the ominous vessel that had recently descended from the distant stars, casting a shadow over the already precarious peace. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves caught in a tempest, whispers of a forgotten armada that once ravaged entire worlds, their legacy marked by destruction and despair. The people of Terra Nova had long viewed the cosmos with trepidation, but the arrival of the Black Ship reignited ancient fears, igniting a conflict that simmered beneath the surface. Kianth felt the weight of their mission pressing down, the need to uncover the true intent of the ship's arrival before chaos erupted. As Kianth approached the government complex, a structure of crystal and steel that housed the Council of Worlds, a sudden pulse of energy reverberated through the air. An alarm blared, slicing through the din of the city, its piercing sound a clarion call for action. Kianth's heart raced as they glanced skyward, the Black Ship now a looming specter against the backdrop of the setting sun. Without warning, the ship unleashed a torrent of luminescent projectiles, each one spiraling toward the ground like stars falling from the heavens. Panic erupted in the streets, the throngs of citizens scattering like grains of sand caught in a storm. But Kianth stood firm, their mind racing to decode the ship's intentions. Was it an act of war, or a desperate plea for help? In that moment, with the city on the brink of chaos, Kianth understood the weight of their role. The fate of Terra Nova, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance as they prepared to confront the truth behind the Black Ship's arrival. Kianth's thoughts flickered to their past, a tapestry woven with threads of ambition and loss. As a child on Nithara, they had gazed at the stars, dreaming of becoming an emissary, bridging worlds, and fostering peace. The day they received the call to serve the Council of Worlds was one of elation, a moment that felt destined. Yet, that joy was tinged with an unsettling reality. The echoes of their home planet's turbulent history haunted them. Nithara had once been a battleground, scarred by conflict with the violent Creel, a race of brutish conquerors that had sought to enslave their kind. Now, as they faced the emergence of the Black Ship, Kianth felt a gnawing fear that history might repeat itself. Meanwhile, in a shadowy corner of the city, another figure stirred. Alara, a brilliant engineer of Terran descent, had devoted her life to the study of alien technology, fascinated by the potential to enhance human capabilities. Her workshop was a chaotic symphony of wires and luminous devices, where she toiled away, fueled by dreams of progress and innovation. The arrival of the Black Ship sent her heart racing, igniting her relentless curiosity. She had spent years decoding alien technologies, yet nothing compared to the enigma of this vessel. Her father had been an astronaut, a hero who vanished on a mission to explore the far reaches of the galaxy, leaving behind a legacy of courage and mystery. Alara's motivation stemmed from that loss. She sought not only to honor his memory, but to uncover the truths that lay beyond the stars. The night before the Black Ship arrived, she had been tinkering with a prototype, a device capable of interfacing with alien tech, her final project before the impending launch of a groundbreaking exploratory mission. Now, that mission seemed overshadowed by the urgency of the moment. She needed to understand the ship's purpose before it could spiral into catastrophe. As chaos enveloped the streets, Kianth found themselves amidst the frantic crowd, the cries of panic mingling with the relentless blare of alarms. Their communicator buzzed, an urgent message from the Council demanding immediate updates. The ethereal hologram of Draxian, a seasoned diplomat and Kianth's mentor, materialized before them, his expression grave. Kianth, the ship has deployed a defensive perimeter. We cannot allow them to isolate us. You must find out what they want now. Determined, Kianth pressed forward, their exosuit adapting to the shifting environment, enhancing their agility and strength. They had trained extensively for this, yet nothing prepared them for the visceral fear that coursed through them as they faced the unknown. Just then, they spotted Alara rushing from her workshop, a tool-laden backpack slung over her shoulder. Their eyes met, an unspoken understanding sparking between them. Both were driven by a need to unravel the mystery of the Black Ship.
"Are you heading to the council?"
Alara called out, her voice barely audible over the din. Kianth nodded, sensing the weight of their shared mission. "We need to get to the source of the disturbance. The council will require all the insight we can gather." As they moved through the throngs of terrified citizens, Alara activated her prototype, a wrist-mounted device that projected a holographic map of the city. The interface pulsed with data streams from various sensors, highlighting the location of the Black Ship and the emerging zones of conflict. "If we can reach the control tower, we might be able to stabilize the situation and make contact," she suggested, her mind racing with possibilities. Kianth felt a surge of hope mixed with trepidation. Alara's ingenuity could be the key to understanding the ship's true intentions. "Lead the way. We must be cautious, we don't know what kind of defenses the ship possesses." As they approached the towering edifice of the control center, the ground shook with the distant thrum of the Black Ship's engines. The air crackled with energy, and Kianth's skin prickled with apprehension. They could sense a palpable connection between themselves, Alara, and the impending fate of their worlds. Kianth, burdened by the legacy of their home, and Alara, driven by a quest for truth, found solace in their shared determination. The control center loomed ahead, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Together, they crossed the threshold, prepared to confront the Black Ship's mystery head-on, each driven by their unique motivations and haunted by the past. The fate of Terra Nova rested not only on the outcome of this encounter but also on the fragile alliance between them, two souls united by a shared purpose in a universe fraught with uncertainty. Kianth and Alara stood in the shimmering lobby of the control center, the flickering holographic displays illuminating their faces as they absorbed the urgent data streaming from the central command. Behind them, the chaos of Terra Nova continued to unfold, but here, they were cocooned in a semblance of order amidst the impending storm. The council members were already convening, their voices a low murmur punctuated by bursts of static as they attempted to regain control of the situation. As they awaited a briefing from the council, Kianth's gaze fell upon a group of figures huddled in the corner, their body language tense and secretive. Among them was Jenak, a renowned xenobiologist who had spent years studying alien species and their interactions with human society. Kianth had crossed paths with Jenak on numerous occasions, yet today, the scientist's demeanor suggested an urgency that intrigued and unsettled them. "Do you see them?" Kianth murmured to Alara, gesturing discreetly toward the group. "Jenak seems agitated." Alara followed their gaze, her brow furrowing as she adjusted the settings on her prototype device. "I wonder what they're discussing. It could be related to the Black Ship's arrival." As the council meeting commenced, Kianth and Alara edged closer to Jenak's group, straining to catch snippets of their conversation. "The genetic anomalies are too volatile," Jenak was saying, their voice laced with concern. "If the Black Ship has reactivated them, we could be facing a threat far beyond what we've encountered before." "Then we must warn the council," another figure, Iliara, a young diplomat with an affinity for interspecies relations, replied. "They need to understand the potential consequences." Kianth exchanged a glance with Alara, sensing an opportunity to weave their narrative into the unfolding events. "We should speak with them," Kianth suggested, stepping forward with purpose. As they approached, Jenak's piercing gaze met Kianth's. "You both arrived just in time," they said, their expression shifting from surprise to relief. "We were just discussing the potential implications of the Black Ship's arrival. There's a theory that suggests it might be connected to a series of genetic experiments conducted by the Creel before their defeat." "Experiments?" Alara asked, her curiosity piqued. "What kind of experiments?" Jenak sighed, running a hand through their hair. The Creel were known for their ruthlessness, but they also delved into genetic engineering. It's rumored they created hybrids, blending their DNA with that of other species to produce enhanced soldiers. If they've managed to reactivate these experiments, we could face an army of uncontrollable creatures. Kianth felt the weight of the revelation settle heavily in their chest. And the Black Ship is connected to this? Iliara nodded. The ship's technology could be harnessing these genetic anomalies as a weapon. If they land on Earth, the consequences could be catastrophic. We need to gather evidence, Genak urged, determination blazing in their eyes. If we can locate the source of the anomalies, we might find a way to neutralize the threat before it escalates. Before they could formulate a plan, a sudden tremor shook the control center. The walls vibrated, and a deep rumbling echoed from above, cutting through the council members' discussions. The lights flickered, and the holographic displays glitched momentarily, prompting the council to exchange alarmed glances. "Stay alert!" One of the council members barked, rising to his feet. "We need to assess the situation immediately." Kianth exchanged a worried look with Alara, their earlier resolve now mixed with apprehension. "We should split up," Kianth suggested. "Alara and I can investigate the anomalies while Genak and Iliara brief the council." "Agreed," Genak replied. "We'll need to access the archives. There might be records of the Creel experiments hidden in the depths of the central database." With a plan in place, Kianth and Alara navigated through the control center, their minds racing with the possibilities that lay ahead. As they descended into the lower levels, the atmosphere shifted, the sterile environment giving way to a maze of corridors lined with cold, metallic walls. The faint hum of machinery echoed in the background, a constant reminder of the technological marvels that powered their society. Alara activated her prototype, its interface illuminating their path. "The archive should be just ahead," she said, her focus unwavering. "If we can access the genetic records, we might discover how the Creel operated and what we're up against." "Let's hope we find something useful," Kianth replied, their heart pounding with the weight of their mission. "Time is not on our side." As they approached the archive room, the door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a cavernous space filled with rows of data crystals, each containing the memories and knowledge of Terra Nova's most significant events. Alara moved swiftly, her fingers dancing over the holographic displays as she sought out the Creel records. "I'll start pulling data on the genetic experiments," Alara said, her voice steady despite the urgency in the air. "You keep watch." Kianth nodded, their instincts on high alert. They felt the tension in the air, a thick blanket of unease that clung to them as they scanned the room for any signs of danger. Just as Alara began to download the data, a distant sound pierced the silence, a low rumble, growing closer, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of metal clashing against metal. "What was that?" Alara asked, glancing up from her screen. "I don't know," Kianth replied, straining to hear. "But it's not good." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness. Alara's prototype emitted a faint glow, barely illuminating their faces. Kianth's heart raced as the sounds grew louder, reverberating through the walls. "Stay close," Kianth urged, their voice low. "We need to get out of here." Before they could make their escape, the door burst open, and a group of armored figures stormed in. The soldiers bore the insignia of the Creel, their visors reflecting the dim light as they moved with a predatory grace. Kianth's blood ran cold. The legends of the Creel were not just tales, but living nightmares. "We have to move," Alara shouted, scrambling to her feet. Kianth grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the exit. "This way." They dashed down the corridor, the sound of heavy footsteps echoing behind them. Alara's prototype flickered erratically, and Kianth could feel the adrenaline coursing through their veins. They turned a corner, desperate to evade capture, but the Creel soldiers were relentless. As they rounded another bend, Kianth spotted a maintenance shaft and emergency exit that might lead to safety. "In there!" they shouted, pushing Alara toward the opening. Alara hesitated for a moment, her eyes wide with fear. "What if they follow us?" "They will," Kianth insisted. But we can't let them capture us. We need to find a way to warn the council. With no time to argue, Alara nodded and squeezed into the shaft, Keanth following closely behind. The narrow passage was dark and cramped, the air thick with the scent of grease and metal. They crawled swiftly, every sound amplifying their anxiety, the distant shouts of the Creel soldiers echoing through the vents. They emerged into a maintenance room cluttered with tools and equipment. Keanth took a moment to catch their breath, their heart pounding in their chest. We need to find a way to contact the council. Alara scanned the room, her eyes landing on a communications terminal in the corner. If I can get this online, we can send a warning. Do it, Keanth urged, keeping a vigilant watch at the door. Alara hurried to the terminal, fingers flying over the controls. I'll need a few moments to access the secure network. Just hurry, Keanth replied, their senses on high alert. Every creak of the room seemed amplified, a reminder that danger lurked just beyond the door. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a lone Creel soldier stepped inside, scanning the room. Keanth's heart raced as they ducked behind a nearby console, adrenaline surging through them. Alara, get down! Keanth hissed. Alara crouched beside the terminal, her breath quickening as she struggled to maintain focus. I almost have it, she whispered, her eyes darting between the soldier and the screen. The Creel soldier stepped further into the room, their weapon drawn, a sleek rifle that hummed with energy. Keanth could see the determination in the soldier's stance, an unyielding commitment to their mission. Just as Keanth prepared to spring into action, a commotion erupted outside the room, a clash of voices and the unmistakable sounds of struggle. The Creel soldier hesitated, their focus shifting to the doorway. Keanth seized the moment, lunging forward and knocking the weapon from the soldier's grasp. A scuffle ensued, and they exchanged blows, Keanth's training kicking in as they fought for control. Alara! Keanth shouted, struggling against the soldier. Now! Alara's fingers danced across the terminal, and a beam of light shot from the device, connecting to the council's network. I'm sending the alert! She called out, her voice steady despite the chaos. Keanth delivered a swift kick to the Creel soldiers midsection, sending them stumbling back. With a final push, Keanth knocked the soldier to the ground, securing their weapon as they quickly aimed it at the fallen foe. Don't move! Keanth warned, their heart racing. The soldier glared up, a mix of anger and surprise in their eyes. You think you can stop us? We will reclaim what is ours. I don't think so, Keanth replied, adrenaline pumping through their veins. We're not going to let that happen. With Alara finally managing to establish a connection, the terminal emitted a signal, broadcasting their warning throughout the council network. They know we're here, Alara breathed, her focus unwavering. I just sent the data on the genetic anomalies. They'll be ready for what's coming. Good, Keanth said, taking a cautious step back from the soldier. Now let's get out of here before reinforcements arrive. As they moved toward the door, Keanth's heart sank at the thought of what lay ahead. They needed to regroup with Genak and Iliara, but the path to the council was fraught with danger. Just then, a loud explosion reverberated through the facility, shaking the walls and sending debris tumbling from the ceiling. Keanth and Alara stumbled, barely regaining their balance as the emergency alarms blared. We need to move, now! Keanth shouted, leading the way out of the maintenance room. They sprinted down the corridor, the echoes of chaos growing louder behind them. As they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with Genak and Iliara, their expressions a mix of relief and urgency. Thank the stars we found you! Iliara exclaimed. We were just about to send a search party. Not yet, Keanth replied, breathless. The Creel are in the facility. We need to leave before they realize we're together. What about the data? Genak asked, glancing back toward the archives. We need to access it. We sent it, Alara said, her voice firm. But we need to regroup outside the city before they retaliate. Then let's move, Genak urged, his determination evident. They raced through the dimly lit corridors, navigating the chaos that unfolded around them. The sounds of battle echoed from above, reverberating through the walls as the Creel forces engaged with the Council's security. Keanth felt the weight of their mission bearing down on them. They were on the front lines of a conflict that threatened not just Terra Nova, but the entire galaxy. As they burst through a side exit, they were met with the sight of chaos in the streets. Civilians ran in all directions, panic gripping the city as the shadows of Creel soldiers loomed over them. The black ship hovered ominously above, its presence a constant reminder of the turmoil they faced. "Where do we go?" Alara shouted over the din, her eyes scanning the scene for any signs of safety. "Follow me," Keanth called, leading the group toward a nearby alley that could serve as temporary cover. They ducked into the narrow passage, the sounds of battle fading slightly as they caught their breath. "What's our next move?" Iliara asked, her voice trembling slightly. "We need to find a way to contact the fleet," Jenak replied, glancing at Alara's prototype. "If we can get a message to the Outer Alliance, they can send reinforcements." "Agreed," Keanth said, determination fueling their resolve. "We need to protect the city and uncover the truth behind the Black Ship before it's too late." As they formulated their plan, Keanth couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away. The stakes had never been higher, and the clock was ticking down toward an inevitable confrontation that could reshape the galaxy. With their paths intertwined, Keanth, Alara, Jenak, and Iliara prepared to face the unknown, united in purpose and driven by the need to protect their home from the encroaching darkness. As they emerged from the alley, they steeled themselves for the battles ahead, their hearts racing with a blend of hope and fear, ready to confront the storm that loomed on the horizon. Keanth led the group through the narrow alley, their heart racing as they navigated the chaos of the streets. The sounds of distant explosions echoed behind them, and the flickering lights cast unsettling shadows on the walls. They glanced at Alara, whose face was a mix of determination and anxiety. "Are you okay?" Keanth asked, lowering their voice to avoid drawing attention. Alara took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I'm fine. I never imagined it would come to this. I was so focused on my project, thinking we'd be pioneers, not defenders." Keanth nodded, recalling their own childhood dreams of exploration. "We wanted to change the world. Now it feels like we're fighting just to keep it." "We can't let fear take over," Alara replied, her voice firm. "We need to stand together, or it will all fall apart." Jenak, trailing just behind them, overheard their conversation. "You both have the right mindset. Our strength lies in unity. If we can reach the outskirts, we can access the communication relay. I have contacts who can help us." Iliara, ever the optimist, chimed in. "We just need to keep moving. If we can warn the fleet, they'll know how to handle the Creel. We're not alone in this fight." Keanth appreciated Iliara's enthusiasm but felt the weight of doubt creeping in. "What if we're too late? What if the Black Ship has already unleashed its weaponry?" "Then we adapt," Jenak said, his tone resolute. "We don't know their capabilities yet. There's still time to turn this around." As they reached the end of the alley, Keanth spotted a small access point leading to an underground maintenance route. "This way," they urged, motioning for the others to follow. Once inside, the group found themselves in a dimly lit corridor, the air heavy with the scent of metal and oil. Keanth paused to catch their breath, allowing the silence to settle around them. They leaned against the cool wall, fighting against the rising tide of anxiety. "Is everyone ready?" Keanth asked, trying to gauge the group's resolve. "I'm not backing down," Alara stated, her eyes fierce. "This is our chance to protect everything we've worked for." "I believe in us," Iliara added, her voice steady. "We've come too far to turn back now." Jenak offered a nod of approval. "Together, we'll outsmart them." The Creel may be formidable, but they underestimate the resilience of those they seek to dominate. Keanth felt a swell of pride in their companions, but deep down, they wrestled with an unsettling truth. They had always been the peacemaker, the one who believed in diplomacy over violence. But now, as the threat loomed larger, Keanth found themselves questioning their beliefs.
What if diplomacy fails?
They pondered aloud.
What if we're forced to fight?
Alara stepped closer, sensing Keanth's turmoil. It's okay to feel that way. We're in uncharted territory. But fighting doesn't mean we abandon our values. We fight to protect what matters. Protecting what matters, Keanth echoed, contemplating the lives at stake.
But at what cost?
I've seen what war does to worlds. I don't want to be part of that cycle. Neither do I, Genak said, his voice softening. But sometimes, we have to fight to defend our homes. It doesn't erase our desire for peace, it's a means to an end. As they pressed forward, the corridor began to widen, revealing a series of maintenance panels and dimly lit screens displaying vital systems for the city. Alara's eyes lit up at the sight. We can access the mainframe from here. If I can hack into the city's systems, we might be able to gather intel on the Creel's movements. Let's do it, Keanth urged, feeling a spark of hope. This might give us the edge we need. Alara hurried to the nearest terminal, her fingers flying across the controls. I'll need a few moments to bypass the security protocols. Keanth stood guard, scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. The tension in the air was palpable, a reminder of the stakes at play. As they waited, they turned to Genak, seeking solace in his experience.
Have you faced the Creel before?
Keanth asked, curiosity mingling with anxiety. Genak nodded slowly, his gaze distant. I've encountered their remnants in the outer territories. They're brutal, relentless. But they're also predictable. They thrive on fear and chaos. If we can remain calm, we can exploit their weaknesses. Keanth took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Genak's words. Calm. Right. Easier said than done. Iliara chimed in, her optimism unwavering. We have each other. That's what matters. Together, we can find a way. Suddenly, Alara's voice broke through the tension. I'm in. I have access to the surveillance feeds. Keanth leaned closer, peering over Alara's shoulder. The screen flickered to life, displaying various feeds from around the city. They could see the Creel soldiers moving in organized formations, their technology glinting ominously under the city lights. Look! Alara pointed at one of the feeds. They're heading toward the central plaza. We need to warn the council immediately.
Can you send a message?
Keanth asked, urgency clawing at them. I'll try, Alara replied, her focus unwavering as she worked the terminal. If I can tap into their communication lines. Just then, the door behind them slammed open, and a group of Creel soldiers poured into the room, their eyes gleaming with malice. Run! Keanth shouted, adrenaline surging through them as they grabbed Alara's arm and yanked her away from the terminal. They dashed toward the exit as the soldiers shouted in their guttural language, weapons raised. Keanth's mind raced. This was not how it was supposed to go. They had hoped for a strategic advantage, not a direct confrontation. As they bolted down the corridor, Genak shouted, we need to find a way to barricade the door. Alara, can you lock it down? Keanth asked, glancing back at the approaching soldiers. I can try. Alara replied, her fingers flying over her device. Just give me a few seconds. They skidded to a stop, searching for anything they could use as a barrier. Iliara spotted a heavy metal crate nearby. Help me with this. Keanth and Genak rushed to assist, heaving the crate against the door just as it began to swing open. The soldiers surged forward, their eyes filled with rage. Now! Alara shouted, her voice strained as she finally managed to activate the locking mechanism. The door slammed shut, and they heard the sound of metal clashing against the crate as the soldiers tried to force their way in. We have to keep moving. Keanth urged, adrenaline surging through their veins. We can't let them trap us here. The group sprinted through the labyrinthine corridors, their hearts pounding in unison. Kianth could feel the weight of their responsibility. Their decisions would determine not just their fate, but that of Terra Nova itself.
What's the plan?
Iliara asked, her breath coming in quick gasps. Kianth paused for a moment, trying to catch their breath. We need to reach the communication relay. If we can get a message to the fleet, we might stand a chance. Genak nodded, determination etched across his face. Then let's make it happen. We can't afford to waste time. As they rounded another corner, they spotted an emergency exit sign flickering in the distance. There. Kianth pointed. That might lead us to safety. They pushed forward, adrenaline fueling their every step. As they approached the door, Kianth could feel the tension in the air. Would they find safety on the other side, or would the Creel be waiting for them? Alara reached for the door handle, her fingers trembling slightly. Here goes nothing, she whispered, pushing the door open. They rushed through, emerging into a dimly lit alleyway behind the control center. The sounds of battle echoed from the streets beyond, but here, for a brief moment, they felt a sense of relief. Now what? Iliara asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Kianth scanned the area, seeking a way to regroup. We need to find a vehicle. If we can reach the outskirts, we can make contact with the fleet. As they moved through the alley, Kianth's mind raced with thoughts of their home, of the people they fought to protect. They had never envisioned themselves in a fight for survival, yet here they were, caught in a battle that felt larger than themselves. Stay close, Kianth urged, their instincts kicking in as they approached a parked vehicle. We can use this. Alara quickly examined the controls. It's a standard model. I can get it running. Do it, Genak said, scanning the area for any signs of danger. We don't have much time. As Alara worked on the vehicle, Kianth felt a surge of gratitude for their companions. They had formed an unlikely alliance, and each member brought their own strengths to the table. But as they stood on the brink of a new conflict, Kianth couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Do you think we can stop this? Kianth asked, voice barely above a whisper. Alara paused for a moment, her eyes filled with resolve. We have to believe we can. We're not fighting just for ourselves, we're fighting for everyone who can't. With a final push, the vehicle roared to life, and Alara grinned with triumph. Got it. Let's move. They climbed inside, Kianth taking the driver's seat as the others secured their positions. The sounds of battle grew closer, and Kianth felt their heart race as they steered the vehicle into the street, ready to face whatever awaited them. As the vehicle sped through the streets, Kianth's mind buzzed with the urgency of their mission. The sleek design of the hovercraft glided effortlessly over the cracked pavement, the integrated gravity dampeners allowing them to maneuver with agility. Alara tapped furiously at the console, scanning for any signs of Creel forces ahead. Powering up the cloaking field, she announced, her voice steady amidst the chaos. With a flick of her wrist, the vehicle shimmered, blending into the city's urban landscape. We'll have a better chance of slipping past them undetected. Kianth felt a surge of hope as they zipped through the dilapidated urban sprawl. The familiar sights of Terra Nova were interspersed with remnants of advanced technology, holographic advertisements flickering to life above them. Yet, the beauty of the city had been tarnished by the encroaching shadows of war. Keep an eye on the rear sensors, Genak instructed, his gaze locked on the monitor displaying the surrounding area. We don't know how quickly they can adapt to our technology. Alara's fingers danced across the controls, and a 3D projection of the city emerged above the dashboard. I've tapped into the city surveillance system. We can use these feeds to navigate through their patrol routes. Looks like they're focusing their search around the council headquarters. Kianth nodded, their heart pounding as they maneuvered through narrow alleys and abandoned streets. We need to get to the outskirts. If we can reach the communication relay, we can alert the fleet to the Creel's position. As they approached a bridge leading out of the city, a flicker of movement caught Kianth's eye. Over there! They pointed to a group of Creel soldiers, their bioluminescent armor casting eerie glows in the dim light. The soldiers were deploying a device, a dome-like structure that began to pulse with energy.
What are they doing?
Iliara whispered, peering over Kiantha's shoulder.
Is that a beacon?
Worse, Jenak replied, his voice low. That's a dimensional destabilizer. If they activate it, it could rip the fabric of our reality apart, allowing their reinforcements to flood in. Kiantha's stomach dropped.
We can't let that happen.
Alara, can we disrupt its activation? I can try to override the signal, Alara replied, determination flashing in her eyes. But I'll need time. If we get close enough, I can hack into their system remotely. Then we'll get as close as we can, Kianth said, glancing at the bridge. Stay low and keep the cloaking field active. I'll drive us right to their perimeter. With a renewed sense of purpose, Kianth accelerated toward the bridge, maneuvering the hovercraft with precision. They slipped into the shadows as the Creel soldiers continued their work, unaware of the impending threat. As they neared the destabilizer, Alara initiated the drone attachment that extended from the craft's underside. I'll launch the drone to create a diversion. Once they're distracted, I'll hack into their systems. Do it, Kianth urged, gripping the controls tightly. The drone zipped away, its cloaking field mirroring their crafts, and began to emit a series of loud beeps that echoed through the night. The Creel soldiers turned, confusion spreading across their faces as they scrambled to investigate the source of the noise. Now! Jenak shouted, and Kianth pushed the hovercraft forward, slipping through the gap between the soldiers and the destabilizer. Alara focused intently on her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. I'm in, she breathed, her fingers flying across the touch screen. The 3D map displayed the destabilizer's energy readings, a swirling mass of colors that shifted like a living entity. I need just a moment to neutralize the activation sequence. Kiantha's heart raced as they observed the Creel scrambling, their attention diverted. We don't have much time. If they notice us. Almost there. Alara replied, her voice steady despite the tension. Suddenly, a blaring alarm rang out from the Creel's device, signaling that they had been compromised. Kiantha's pulse quickened. They're onto us. We need to move. I'm shutting it down. Alara's voice cut through the chaos, and she pressed a final sequence. The destabilizer emitted a low hum before flickering, its energy field collapsing in on itself. The soldiers, now alerted, turned back to the hovercraft, their eyes wide with fury. Go, go, go! Jenak urged, and Kianth slammed the accelerator, propelling them away from the scene just as the destabilizer erupted in a shower of sparks and energy. The shockwave rippled through the air, and Kianth felt the craft lurch, but they maintained control. Did we get them? Iliara asked, her eyes wide with fear. Not yet, Kianth replied, casting a glance back at the chaos. The Creel soldiers were in disarray, some rushing to the fallen device while others regrouped, weapons raised. But we bought ourselves a little time. As they emerged from the city's perimeter, the hovercraft soared over the open landscape, where the neon glow of the city faded into the vast expanse of night. Kiantha's heart swelled with a mix of relief and anxiety. They had disrupted the Creel's plans, but the fight was far from over. Let's focus on reaching the communication relay, Kianth said, determination settling over them like a mantle. If we can contact the fleet, we might still have a chance to turn this around. The vastness of the open land lay ahead, the horizon marked by the faint outline of the relay tower. They pushed forward, adrenaline coursing through their veins. Yet, Kianth couldn't shake the lingering sense of dread. Each moment brought them closer to their goal, but also deeper into enemy territory. As they neared the relay, a sudden surge of energy crackled through the air, rippling like a wave. The hovercraft shuddered, and Kiantha's hands tightened on the controls. What was that? They exclaimed, glancing at Alara. The Creel must have activated their signal jammers, she replied, frustration etched on her face. We're losing connection with the city's network. If we can't establish a link to the fleet soon, Kianth steeled their resolve. We'll find another way. There has to be an alternative route to the relay that isn't under their surveillance. Maybe we can use the sub-network, Alara suggested. If we can access the underground conduits, we might bypass the jammers altogether. Lead the way, Kianth urged, glancing at Jenak and Iliara, who nodded in agreement. As they veered off the main path, Kianth could feel the tension in the air intensifying. The ground began to undulate, revealing a series of metallic grates that marked the entrance to the underground network. This is it, they announced, guiding the hovercraft to a stop. Alara quickly analyzed the control panel. The access point should be just ahead. We can drop down and navigate through the conduits. With a firm resolve, they all exited the hovercraft and moved toward the grates. Alara pried one open, revealing a dark tunnel descending into the depths below. Stay close, she instructed as they descended into the underground labyrinth. The tunnels were dimly lit, with bioluminescent fungi clinging to the walls, casting an eerie glow. The air was cool and damp, a stark contrast to the chaos above. Kianth led the way, their heart pounding as they navigated the maze. I can access the system from here, Alara said, her voice echoing in the narrow space. If I can connect to the sub-network, we might be able to override the jammers. Do it, Jenak replied, his voice steady as he scanned the shadows for any signs of danger. We need to be ready for anything. As Alara focused on her task, Kianth felt the weight of their choices pressing down. They had come so far, yet the threat of the Creel loomed larger with each passing moment. They were no longer just a group of scientists, they had become warriors in a battle for their world. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them, and Kianth steadied themselves against the wall. What was that? Iliara asked, fear creeping into her voice. Earthquake? Jenak suggested, but the rhythmic vibrations felt different. Alara's eyes widened as she tapped into the network. No. It's not natural. The Creel are destabilizing the ground to prevent our escape. Kianth's heart raced. We need to move, now. Alara, can you get that signal out? Almost there. She replied, sweat beading on her forehead as she fought against the system. Just a few more seconds. They pressed deeper into the tunnels, the ground shaking violently now. Dust and debris fell from the ceiling, and Kianth could feel the walls closing in. Hurry! They urged. Finally, Alara's voice broke through the chaos. I'm in. I can send the signal, but we have to get to the nearest access point. Lead the way, Kianth shouted, adrenaline fueling their every step. They raced through the twisting tunnels, Alara guiding them with precision. Just ahead, they spotted a flickering light, a maintenance access point leading to the surface. Kianth pushed open the door, the blinding light of the outside world flooding in. They emerged into an open field, the sky alive with the vibrant colors of the horizon. But there was no time to marvel at the beauty, the Creel were closing in. Alara, now! Kianth shouted, urgency in their voice as they crouched behind a large rock formation. Sending the signal. Alara replied, her fingers flying over the controls once more. The air crackled with energy as a pulse of light shot into the sky, breaking through the barriers of the jammers. Kianth held their breath, watching as a flicker of response pulsed back a reply from the fleet. They're receiving it! They exclaimed, hope surging within them. Now we just need to hold off the Creel until they can get here, Jenak said, glancing toward the approaching soldiers. Let's make our stand, Kianth declared, determination igniting within them. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, and they would fight for their home, their people, and their future. As the Creel soldiers advanced, weapons raised and armor gleaming, Kianth felt a fierce resolve welling up within them. This was their moment to defend everything they cherished, to stand against the tide of destruction that threatened to engulf them. Together! Kianth shouted, rallying their companions as they prepared to face the oncoming storm. In that moment, they knew they would fight not just for survival, but for the hope of a brighter tomorrow. As Keanth, Alara, Jenak, and Iliara braced themselves behind the rock formation, their hearts pounded in unison with the approaching footsteps of the Creel soldiers. Tension hung in the air, the fading light casting long shadows that danced around them. Just as Keanth raised their weapon, ready to engage, an unexpected flicker of energy disrupted the battlefield. The ground trembled again, this time more violently. Before anyone could react, a rift opened in the air just beyond the Creel lines, a swirling mass of colors that pulsated ominously. The soldiers halted, momentarily distracted, their expressions shifting from aggression to confusion. "What in the cosmos is that?" Iliara breathed, her eyes wide with fear. Alara squinted at the rift, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It looks like a dimensional tear. But how did it open? The destabilizer shouldn't have been capable of this." Keantha's mind raced, connecting the dots. What if it's a result of the destabilizer's malfunction? Or something else entirely? The rift expanded, a loud crackling sound filling the air. From it emerged a towering figure, cloaked in shimmering armor that reflected the hues of the rift. Its features were obscured, but a sense of authority radiated from the being as it stepped forward. "Who dares to disturb the balance?" The figure's voice echoed, resonating through the air like thunder. The Creel soldiers fell back, fear evident in their eyes as they faced this unexpected intruder. Keanth felt a chill run down their spine. "This isn't part of our plan. We need to retreat." "No," Alara interjected, her gaze locked onto the figure. "This might be our chance to uncover the truth behind the Creel's invasion." Before Keanth could respond, the figure raised a hand, and a wave of energy surged from it, enveloping both the Creel and Keantha's group in a brilliant light. As the glow subsided, Keanth realized they were no longer in the field, but inside a vast chamber lined with pulsating crystalline structures. "What just happened?" Jenak asked, glancing around in confusion. "I think we've been transported," Alara whispered, her voice laced with awe. The figure stepped closer, lowering its hood to reveal a face marked with ancient symbols and glowing eyes that seemed to pierce through to their very souls. "I am Ethres, guardian of the Veil," it proclaimed, its voice carrying a weight of history. "You stand at the crossroads of fate, where dimensions collide and the balance of existence hangs by a thread." Keantha's mind raced, attempting to process the overwhelming revelation. "Why are we here? What do you want from us?" Ethres regarded them with a penetrating gaze. "The Creel seek to unleash chaos upon your world, but they are merely puppets in a greater game. Forces beyond your comprehension manipulate the strings, threatening not only your reality but all realities. Why should we trust you?" Iliara asked, her skepticism evident. "You could be lying to lead us into a trap." "I do not lie," Ethres replied, a hint of sadness in its voice. "I am bound to protect the balance. Your bravery has summoned me at a crucial moment. You must decide whether to fight for your world or remain passive while the cosmic powers wage war." Keanth felt the weight of the choice pressing down on them. "What must we do?" Ethres gestured to the crystals surrounding them. "Within these crystals lies knowledge, insights into the Creel's true nature and the forces manipulating them. To save your reality, you must understand the origins of the Creel and the threat they pose." Jenak stepped forward, determination evident in his stance. "We'll do whatever it takes to protect our people." "What do we need to do?" "You must delve into the memories stored within these crystals," Ethres instructed. "But be warned, the truths you uncover may shatter your understanding of reality." As Keanth exchanged glances with their companions, they felt a sense of resolve building within them. They had come too far to turn back now. "Let's uncover the truth," Keanth said, stepping forward with conviction. "Together, we will fight for our world." Ethres nodded, a flicker of approval in its glowing eyes. "Then prepare yourselves. The path ahead will test your hearts and minds." As they approached the crystals, a surge of energy coursed through the air, drawing them closer to the unknown. The journey had shifted, the battle for survival now intertwined with a quest for understanding that would alter the course of their lives and the fate of their world forever. Keanth closed their eyes, centering themselves, and felt the resonance of the crystals calling to them. They reached out, fingertips brushing against the surface, and a flood of visions engulfed their mind. Flashes of the Creel's history, their origins, and the mysterious forces at play cascaded through them, illuminating secrets long buried in the depths of time. With each vision, Keanth understood more about the Creel, their struggles, and the manipulation that had driven them to violence. This newfound knowledge revealed the complexity of their enemy and ignited a fierce determination to fight not just against the Creel, but for a deeper understanding of the forces that sought to control them all. The moment held the weight of destiny, a turning point that would shape their fight against the darkness threatening to consume their world. Keanth stood amidst the pulsating crystals, the echoes of their recent revelations resonating within. E3's words lingered in the air, thick with promise and uncertainty. The memory floods had unraveled the complex tapestry of the Creel and the dark forces orchestrating their invasion, weaving a narrative that shifted Keanth's perception of the enemy. No longer mere adversaries, the Creel were a product of their own struggles, caught in a web of manipulation that transcended their world. As the visions faded, Keanth turned to Alara, Genak, and Iliara, their faces illuminated by the ethereal glow of the crystals. "We have a responsibility now," Keanth said, the weight of understanding settling over them. "We must share what we've learned. This war is not just ours to fight, it encompasses dimensions, realities we barely comprehend." "Are we prepared for that?" Iliara questioned, her brow furrowed with concern. "What if revealing the truth only deepens the conflict?" "The truth is a weapon," Genak replied, resolve hardening his features. "Knowledge is our greatest ally. If we can unite those who are willing to listen, we might turn the tide." E3 stepped forward, its presence radiating wisdom. "You are wise to consider the implications of your actions. The knowledge you carry can illuminate paths previously shrouded in darkness. However, it will also attract those who wish to silence you." Keanth nodded, a sense of purpose igniting within. "Then we will be ready. We have faced the Creel, we can confront whatever lies ahead." As they prepared to leave the chamber, E3's raised a hand, the air shimmering around them. "You are not alone in this fight. The Guardians of the Veil will watch over you. But remember, every choice you make will ripple through the dimensions." With a wave of energy, the world around them shifted once more. Keanth and their companions emerged back in the open field, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting vibrant hues across the sky. The remnants of the Creel soldiers had vanished, leaving behind only silence and the echoes of their earlier confrontation. "Is it over?" Alara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "For now," Keanth replied, feeling a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. "But this is just the beginning." As they regrouped and prepared to head back toward the city, Keanth couldn't shake the sense of wonder that enveloped them. The knowledge gained from the crystals transformed their understanding of the conflict, unveiling a larger universe filled with possibilities and dangers. The path forward was uncertain, yet the bond among them had strengthened, igniting a shared purpose. In the distance, the flicker of lights from Terra Nova beckoned, a reminder of the lives they fought to protect. Keanth's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the last rays of sunlight kissed the sky, a promise of new beginnings. Each star that emerged felt like a beacon of hope, whispering tales of challenges yet to come and adventures waiting just beyond the veil. "Together," Keanth said, looking at their friends, "we'll face whatever comes next. This fight isn't just about survival, it's about understanding, connection, and forging a future where every reality can coexist." As they set off toward the city, the weight of their purpose steadied Keanth's resolve. The chapter may have concluded, but the story was far from over. Each step was a leap into the unknown, the lingering sense of wonder propelling them forward into the vast, uncharted expanse of their intertwined destinies. The battle had shifted, the stakes raised, and Keanth felt the thrill of anticipation coursing through them. They would uncover the mysteries that lay ahead, armed with knowledge and a fierce determination to protect all they held dear.